Thank you so much for being with us today. First and foremost, congratulations. Welcome back to Miami-Dade County. I know you do have a long history here in the district, even though you spent some time on the other side of the state. Before we get to the nitty-gritty of all that's involved in being the superintendent of one of the largest school districts in the country, first, how are you feeling right now? Is this sort of a goal attained for you, something you had worked hard for the last several years?
You know, I have to tell you, not a goal. I think the opportunity arose, and I became very interested in being able to just come back to the community. I thought, and in fact, I was just speaking to a friend right now about this. This wasn't in my horizon per se, because I did not think this would have been an opportunity in Dade. So I've worked many, many years in the school district in different capacities. In fact, I moved over to Collier with an opportunity to have a broader impact on the school district as a deputy superintendent. And this opportunity arose, and I'm just so honored to be able to come back to my hometown that was mine as a child, that I grew in, and then I had the great fortune to develop professionally in. And I'm just honored and so happy to be able to, in one way or the other, come back, work hard, and give back.
What are some of the unique challenges that you think are presented to you here, specifically in Miami-Dade County? How does it differ from other districts in the state?
So in many ways, there are similarities, and of course, the similar one is that no matter what school district children are in now, at least that I can know of, many students have experienced learning losses or unfinished learning, like I like to call it, right? But every district is different. Some districts are smaller. Some districts, students have been back to their regular schools earlier than others. And you know that some districts do not have as many challenging schools or students that are socioeconomically needy. And so in Miami-Dade, the challenge is a great one. It is great because of the many different pockets, the complexity of the city, of the community, and then where some schools lie and the additional resources that are needed. So the big challenge is making sure that we are on top of, and we're very diligent in making sure that we are providing the appropriate instructional strategies and the appropriate instructional supports for students to not only grow academically, but in many areas catch up with the learning that they've lost. And so right now we're in this situation where we speak about trying to accelerate learning so that we can make sure that they grow and not lose any more ground, but also balancing it with the pockets of instruction that they've lost. So prior to the pandemic, we were very good at remediation. We always spoke about two sides of the spectrum: enrich and remediate. Well, right now we have to do those, but more importantly is we have to accelerate instruction so that students can catch up. In particular, sometimes we speak in generalities about the learning losses, but there is one particular area where these losses have been significant, and that is in the area of mathematics. Students have lost more ground in mathematics than they have in reading. And so that is an area that really needs to be focused on. Some of these math areas are critically important because they become benchmarks for graduation in high school, algebra being one particular point. So attending to that is important, and we cannot forget that we don't only need to focus on students, we have to have a conversation about how we are supporting and equipping teachers to be able to do this balancing of acceleration and supporting and scaffolding instruction and also making sure that principals understand what teachers need in order to provide the best conditions possible for teaching and learning when we know that we're being challenged by the pandemic. I don't think it can get any more complex, and therefore being constantly making sure that there's progress in students, being engaged more frequently in terms of progress points of academics becomes important. And then what about the social and emotional learning that some of our students have experienced? What, attuning to that is really important. And that's where we have to be really careful and deliberate that we are addressing the mental health needs of many of our students. Sometimes I grow concerned that some of this is kept silent because sometimes students don't know how to express it. So our ability to tap into that becomes really important. So now we have a convergence of the academic needs of students along with their social, emotional, and that mental health component that has to be important. So as we analyze and we look carefully at that, we're doing what is most impactful to help students grow academically, we have to layer it with, do we know what they're dealing with on the social, emotional, mental health side as well?
It's all about the whole child, and it's a very intricate puzzle to try to piece together. And sort of the glue that often holds it together in these classrooms are, of course, teachers, one of the most valuable resources in the education system. But more and more, I'm hearing from teachers I know personally, from anecdotes I'm seeing on social media. Teachers are leaving the profession, not because they don't love it, not because they don't care about the kids, but because they are stressed out, they feel overworked, in some cases they feel underpaid, and they just don't know what else they can do. What is your position as the superintendent as far as how to support these teachers and to make them feel like this is what they're made to do? Because it is truly a calling and a passion. I know it's not just a job for these educators, but what are you going to do to help them feel like this is a profession that they can stay in long term and feel sustainable, that it's not going to drain them completely emotionally and physically?
That is one very powerful question, and one that sits at the center of what I've been doing for a very, very long time, which is, are we working with teachers effectively to help them retain them and keep them as teachers in the school district, right? There's an opportunity to provide grace in terms of what we do for them and really develop them and help them. I can tell you that has been the piece of work that I've done for several years on the human resources side. And I am worried. I am worried about the profession. And if we don't attend to this particular point that you're bringing upon, is really important. If you look at what's occurring with the teacher talent pool, right? It's no longer a teacher talent pool of just teachers that have signed up to become teachers when they entered college. We have a lot of folks, a lot of talented folks that have entered the profession, not necessarily coming out of a traditional teacher preparation program. In fact, the table is turning that we're having more and more career changers than actual teachers from teacher preparation programs. And so therefore, school districts, and Miami-Dade has done a really, really good job, and I can attest to that because I've been part of what we've been doing, is trying to pay attention to new teacher development, early career teachers that are coming in new to the field, that they need a lot of work on supporting the pedagogical side of the house. How do you work with students? How do you lesson plan? How do you provide the best classroom management opportunities in classrooms? So that has been always an important composite. And you're absolutely right. Teachers need to feel valued. Teachers need to feel that we're supporting them. And salaries has become an important issue, whether it is teachers that are part of their mid-year career or veterans. It's an opportunity that we have to value what they're doing. Teachers are not only teaching right now, they're doing much more. They're taking care of the health of their students. They're watching out for their mental health. Like you're saying, It's about the whole child. And if we as leaders don't lift their importance and really bring value to what they're doing and really showcase it on behalf of the community, we're not doing service to them. So that is an area that I believe will be one of my platforms, is to keep teachers always in mind and understand what it is that we need to do to make them feel valued, but create conditions for them, teaching and learning conditions that become optimal so they can feel comfortable and they do not think about departing the profession. We need them now more than ever. And moving forward, whatever we do, and it's not only teachers, right? It's other vital positions that we have in the school district that are really important. Sometimes I believe that we do not project ourselves as an employer of choice for talented individuals, because sometimes we live in the space of being just a school district, but the school district is the largest employer in the county. And I can tell you, and folks that are listening, you know, you come and you become part of Miami-Dade County Public Schools and you have opportunities to grow. You know, the days of teachers just coming to teach for 20 or 30 years, that's not necessarily the case anymore. And we want to attract talent that they may become teachers, but they have a pathway to grow in many different areas. We have instructional technology opportunities that we've built since I was there, teacher leadership roles. So I think sometimes we have to reframe and we have to rethink of all the wonderful things that our teachers are doing that allow them to become innovative, creative, but being extremely supportive of what they do. It's an area of work that really has driven me. I've spent the last 5 years prior to being the deputy superintendent here in Collier on the human resources side, working a lot on rethinking how do we recruit and how do we retain teachers. And I think it'll be an ongoing conversation because it has everything to do with human capital and the teacher talent pool as it changes and how we address it and how we connect with universities to think differently about what we're doing. You know, teachers do not depart a school district. Teachers depart because of the way they're feeling in the particular school that they're at. So looking at that carefully and working with principals and their leaders to ensure that there are added supports and that teachers are valued, to me, is at the center of being able to honor them, value them, and retain them as teachers.
I know that it is key that, you know, politics don't get involved in education. They should be kept separate. But inevitably, over these last 2 years, there has been a bit of a contentious relationship between particularly the two school districts here in South Florida and the governor's office as it relates to mandates and what can be done in schools as it relates to critical race theory and whether or not it is being taught. How do you plan on working with the State Department of Education and the governor's office to make sure that the student experience and the teacher experience as well is the best that it could possibly be to focus on education for these kids?
So interesting enough, we've been working a lot here in Collier on that particular issue, right? It's being impacted across the state. And the best way to approach it is we have to listen. We have to be sensitive, but we have to understand our communities well. And we have to be able to articulate a very well developed thoughts and ideas of what is important for our students, what is important for our teachers, providing the opportunity for teaching to really unfold in its most natural setting. And then sometimes demystify or claim or better disclaim some things that maybe are communicated that are not right and that are not factual in nature, right? So there are, we have to be firm, we have to be clear, articulating that and educating the community in those aspects is really, really important. You know, sometimes perceptions are required that become reality. it is our role to say differently and clarify those points. And sometimes it's not enough by saying it once. You have to repeat it. You have to have the opportunity to speak to people and clarify some of the issues that have occurred, that have emerged. And yet we have to get through this moment so that instruction is not impacted in a negative way, and that students are not impacted socially, emotionally because of the potential narrative that may be emerging.
Dr. Dotres, I know we are out of time. You've got somewhere else to be, but very quickly, anything else you'd like to add about this position and your priority on day one as superintendent of Miami-Dade County?
Sure. I just want to say that I'm honored. I'm honored that I'm returning home, a home that was my town, that I grew up as a child when I came from Cuba, 5 years old. And then I was able to, again, grow professionally there. I'm open. I'm a listener. To me, communication is at the center of anyone's success. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that I come with the greatest disposition to work hard on behalf of students, to work hard on behalf of the families that I know so very well, the different communities that are in Miami, and then become extremely supportive of teachers and also the school leaders that are at the forefront of what's occurring day in and day out in every single school across the community.
Dr. Dotres, thank you so much once again for joining us, and good luck.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.